How's it going, you guys? Welcome to your morning cup. Well, the basics of life suggest the fact that there were meteors that crashed onto the earth with the right amount of ingredients that kickstarted life on the earth itself. But is that highly subjective to the fact that meteors crashed on the earth as a regular occurrence? Well, not necessarily. What we understand today is the fact that by numerous universities and numerous studies about doing numerous research aspects and numerous ventures by numerous space organizations and ventures into deep space, as well as learning the essence of the solar system itself, we understand that meteors crashing on planets is rather rare. Also, we understand that planets that have moons around them, well, it limits the amount of meteors crashing onto that planets even more. And we understand that when we talk about the earth in one way, shape or form was unable to harbor life. And through the course of evolution, through the course of the earth evolving and terraforming itself, today we are looking at a planet where life is booming. Well, when we look at the universe itself, we understand that there are numerous other planets just like the earth with just the same amount of atmospheric compositions as the earth, if not a bigger scale than the earth. And this helps because we understand the fact that there is a broader picture here. And when we talk about the broader picture, we need to first talk about how life started on the earth itself. You see, there have been a lot of speculations recently and a lot of studies that have dictated the fact that it could have just been the fact that the earth was formed not by mere meteors crashing into it, but by certain things that the earth did for itself. And by that, I'm of course pointing towards lightning strikes. Now, when I'm talking about lightning strikes, this is essentially what I mean. Lightning strikes have been known to impact the earth for as long as you and I know. What we understand for a fact is one of the most essential things that is required for life to cultivate itself is phosphorus. And the only other source for phosphorus on the earth was through meteorites. What we understand today is that these meteorites, some garnered phosphorus and some didn't. Some merely made an impact and pushed back life thousands of years, and some benefited life. Whereas lightning strikes, if occurring on the earth itself, make impact with ground originating phosphorus, essentially rocks that have phosphorus in them. And this phosphorus in its natural format is by no means soluble. And what we need is soluble phosphorus for life to even stand a chance. Phosphorus is needed for molecules to form the basic cell structures, cell membranes, and even the phosphate backbones of DNA and RNA. Now, a study from the Yale University and the Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences has dictated the fact that even though there's been long aspects of speculation dictating that meteors were the end-all be-all when it comes to getting the right amount of minerals onto the earth to garner a society in which we live today, to garner the first aspects of the amoebas, to garner the dinosaurs, to garner evolution in all its aspects, to humanity where it stands today, we understand that as far back as we look, meteors were the solution, the missing piece to the equation, if you will. But today, a new study finds that it could have been lightning. And when we look at lightning strikes today on the earth, it is in no way, shape or form anywhere near the amount of lightning strikes that we had way back in the day. You see, when life began on the earth upwards of 3.5 billion years ago, we understood that there were a lot of meteorites impacting the earth. But then there was a gradual fallout. There were not enough meteorites making, impacts on the earth. And one of the most required forms of phosphorus mineral to sustain life is schreibersite. And schreibersite is something that you cannot really garner in its natural form. And meteors were an abundant source of this phosphorus. But the earth found itself in a predicament wherein not enough meteorites were crashing on the earth anymore. So how do you sustain life? How does life evolve? Well, what we understood then is that lightning strikes started to ramp up. And from way back in the day, when we look at how lightning strikes could have made a difference, well, when lightning strikes make direct contact with the earth's surface, you get a phosphorus compound by the name of fulgurite. And fulgurite is only formed when lightning strikes make contact with ground rocks. Essentially, minerals that have been already exposed to the earth and have been closely bound together in rocks, if hit by lightning, expel these minerals. And these minerals thereafter mix into the environments, mix into water, and the right amount of phosphorus is thereby achieved. You see, lightning does not diminish over time, and it is formed on the earth itself, whereas meteors do diminish over time. You cannot really garner how many meteors are making impacts on the earth, but you can garner the sheer amount of lightning strikes that are happening on the earth. And one of them is always going to outpace the other in terms of existing. Meteors might not necessarily make impact every year, but every year you can rest assured believe that there will be lightning strikes. You see, the study stated that on the earth today we experience about 560 million lightning flashes per year. And on the earth way back in the day, this number would have been around 1.1 to 5 billion lightning strikes, out of which 100 million to 1 billion lightning strikes would be such that they made contact with the ground. Over a billion years of this could have resulted in upwards of 1 quintillion lightning strikes that made impact on the earth's surface, and a whole lot of phosphorus that was generated. This by no means was a fast process. It took its time. This process was one that took years and years, thousands of years if you will, but a process that worked nevertheless. You see, life evolved in its own gradual paces. We did not see life drastically evolve in the span of 100 years or even 1,000 years or even 10,000 years or even a million years for that matter of fact. Life took its due course of time, and the right amount of evolutionary standards that were required for life to sustain itself were met eventually. And when they were not met, there was a period of pause, a period where nothing evolved, a period where life took a back step. But today, we are in a time and a place where we are well versed in the understandings of the universe itself that we are looking back at how it all began. You see, the significant rise in carbon dioxide levels makes more lightning. How did we get more carbon dioxide? Well, that's a good question, but when you look at the broader aspects of things, we understand that there was a huge impact on the earth. A mass-sized object made its impact with the earth, which thereby formed the moon that we look at today. And this impact would have raised so much amount of carbon dioxide into the sheer essence of the atmosphere, which became trapped over there, that resulted in global temperature rise. Global temperature rise directly correlates to the fact that more temperature means more lightning. You see, the end of the study from the Yale University of Earth and Planetary Sciences dictates, and I quote, that our findings are likely applicable to any planet that has an atmosphere that generates lightning. So as long as a planet has significant amount of lightning, it would have a source of phosphorus needed for the emergence of life itself. And even though we are understanding that this is rather new in terms of our understanding of life, we understand that the meteor quotient is always going to be prevalent. The meteor quotient did hold a very significant part when it did. And by no means are we claiming that the meteor quotient is out of the picture. Of course, with the meteors that we still face today, like a meteor that we spoke about last week that made impact on the earth, that is 1 in a million chance of such a meteor and its composition to make impact and still stay intact. The same thing happens over millions of years, if you will, but not just the right amount that we require for life to sustain itself, for life to kickstart. And lightning strikes, on the other hand, were very prevalent way back in the day, are less prevalent today, but yet the sheer amount of scale that we're looking at lightning strikes, we believe that it's way too much to handle. Now imagine a time and a place where in 50 years from now, the amount of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere raises the global temperature so much so that we're going to be looking at lightning strikes like way back in the day. And thunderstorms, lightning strikes that was so intense that they ripped out phosphorus from the Earth's soil, from the Earth's rocks, could prove devastating for the sheer infrastructure that we have in place today, that we are so dependent upon for sustaining ourselves, for sustaining the new age of life, if you will. You see, nature has always found a way to cultivate what is needed for nature itself. When it comes to sustaining life, nature found a way to sustain life. But when it comes to sustaining nature itself, you can best believe that nature will do whatever it needs to do, and it might not necessarily have our best interest at play. So what we need to do is not go against nature, but give in to nature. Do the needful to protect nature, to protect our atmosphere, to protect the earth, and thereby, indirectly, but yet directly, protect ourselves. This has been your Morning Cup. See you soon.